Okay. Watch out for the blindfolded knife thrower. He's not blindfolded, but he was born blind. Sharpshooters and tightrope walkers, they all obey the signs. There are 40 bottles of rain and 40 rooms that launder dirty minds. There's a road that splits a book into right and wrong, a clock that measures if your heart is weak or strong. Watch out for your papa, who got lost in worms. He was not born. Watch out for your son, who touched human bombs in a world madly torn. Everyone takes the wrong turn in this absurd design. Everyone dies before they read the end sign. But hold on, don't throw your knife. There's one born every minute, and it's not a nipple in their mouths. There's a step not discovered that separates the future from now. There's a word not found that reveals you if you are real or a non-existent holy cow. Break the mirror, find another door. The bow is forever stretched, and the arrow pierces your heart. A flower doesn't know that you live your life in a death row. So love, be loved, and stay in love forever. Be free, inhale the light, shedding your last black feather, reach your peak, find a new height. Thank you. It's okay now. This one is called Astral. We are inside this long glance where lots of things flow into each other and retreat into the oneness of the skies intertwined. It's an eternal maze where we got lost. Everything we named, every situation we gave meaning, and the time that we think we can divide is flowing integrally. Coming from within the long glance and innocent touch, a festival of lights are surrounding us with their caravan of songs. Once again, new all over, again and again, we know we'll be back here. The stars are constantly watching us inside the darkness of the night. Breathing together is making us dizzy. One last very short one. I'm Cosmos. I came from nothingness, and I'll return to nothingness once again. With your touch, I'm Cosmos who rules every instant, and I am everything. Thank you.
I'm Mateo Harrincubi, and I'm going to share with you a work in progress. I am king of the conference room. Sit me before pompous CEOs or CFOs or C3POs, and I'll convince them the best treatment for their iron deficiency is an oil change. When I was a child, my mother told me I would grow up to be a salesman. Between her long shifts at the garment district sewing buttons on Dulce y Cabaña satin dress shirts, her thundering, stubborn voice drowning out the rumble of jets landing at a nearby airport, she would say, Ezequiel, you can sell heresy to a nun. Don't you ever forget that, hijo. Grinning, I would look up from my bowl of overcooked rice, salty black beans, and fried plantains, and compliment her phantasmagoric weight loss, or the way her hair curled like mattress springs, or the courage it took to leave my deadbeat, alcoholic father. Witty verbiage got me through school, my first tragic attempt at lovemaking, and the endless, googly-eyed suitors who lined up outside my mother's dilapidated door with roses the color of blood and cheap faux bijoux that fell apart before even making it over the threshold. My big mouth also landed me informal jobs selling stale chewing gum, X-rated fanzines, and bags of tropical fruit at congested traffic lights and downtown pedestrian areas that reveled past dawn. Years later, as a professional salesperson of things, it was again time to sell myself. An eccentric Middle Eastern beauty sold me on the professional merits of a remote Mediterranean island with her dimples the size of craters and the syncopated thrust of her hips to gangster rap. So I followed. My first interview was on the last floor of a local skyscraper, a 10-floor building more stocky than tall. The firm's marketing associate, a middle-aged man in a dark striped suit, obsidian turtleneck sweater, and pointy cowboy boots, welcomed me in. He sat across from me with his sparkling burgundy blush hair plugs and diamond-encrusted sports ring and slung daft questions that failed to stick. What will you need to be a successful Spanish-speaking sales associate here at Racy 4X? Besides a retired Romanian gymnast as my secretary, I would like a corner sea view office, a personal espresso machine, and dental insurance. And wind chimes. I can't sell without wind chimes. By the way, have you thought about corporate wind chimes as gifts to our preferred clients? He shrugged. What's your greatest accomplishment? I once tied a cherry stem into a full Windsor with my tongue. And my eyes closed, I said. Champion mob boss budged uncomfortably on his seat and shuffled the heavily scribbled papers he had brought with him. What's your biggest flaw? I snore like a garbage truck unloading faulty symbols over a bed of bubble wrap. Plus, sometimes I go on endless rants. His head dropped, but his eyes were fixed on mine. He then pushed aside his game plan, leaned back and put his palms behind his head, his fingers interlaced, cocky, as if his cards hid a royal flush. How about your BTA, he asked. What do you mean, my BTA? I said, hoping he didn't expect me to bribe the associate for the post. Been to America. It's one of our non-negotiable requirements, he said. I'm Ecuadorian? No. America. You know, Uncle Sam, Pamela Anderson, the Bellagio. He paused for a few seconds and snapped his fingers. The starch-tangled banner? Sorry, I've never been there. That's a problem, he said, smirking. Let me tell you a story, I said. I'm the only son to a drunk and a single mother who spent the past 20 years in Quito sewing 14-hour days for crumbs. Many of my childhood friends are thieves, drug dealers, inmates, rotting corpses. I made it out. I was a beneficiary of good fortune, hard work, and guile, but I miss my home dearly. The old church steeples reaching out to the morning fog like the arms of the faithful. Our volcanoes as watchtowers peering into the crowded alleys. Indigenous children with shoe-shine kits peddling uneven paint jobs in our wide plazas. The chorus of cheers that swarms our cities when a stitch ball spins and swerves into a net. Fully clothed lovers with nowhere to go, being intimate on park benches and yellowing grass. We are enterprising and fiery and relentless. We drink, we dance, we always battle. Sure, don't hire me because I snore, or I do arts and crafts with fruit, or I have a weakness for annoying mobiles and Nadia Comaneci lookalikes. But don't you dare sit there with that smug look on your face and tell me that our America, my America, does not count.
I will read 4 short poems, all from my new book, which is translated a few months ago. And I would like to start with statement. I'm not fond of roses. I prefer the peace that ashes give to the smell of roses. The tree planted for the suicide girl. I don't know personally this girl. She was 15 years old. But I know the tree, and every day I am there. So I wrote this poem for this girl, or rather tree. The tree planted for the suicide girl is a stream flowing upwards. It flows so soft and slowly that it is forgotten. I did many reading lately, but all in my original language. And this poem that I'm going to read about women, certain women, but wherever I go, they ask me, who are these women? And I reply, who are these women? Where have they come from? Women with appreciating husbands, as if they are stuck in a very soft matter, neither sinking or emerging. Who are these women? Without crosses, without crescents, and unshaved, setting fire to their parts, some parts frozen. And of course, you will recognize these poems, or all the Cypriot will recognize this poem that I'm reading. I'm going to read now. So this is my perspective. The curse of looting. We looted their shops, destroyed their statues, spare their pigs, and burn them with their childhood photographs. We fill their ditches, straighten with bulldozers, and build football pitches over their graves. Inside their memories, we torn down clay walls. We cut their trees, even kill their shadows. We thought they will never come back. They came, with our door's key in their hands. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maria Gregorio. I'm going to tell you a story about a woman. Can you hear me? About a woman at the grand old age of 32 who was looking for love in all the wrong places. Popcorn dreams. Lonely woman on a bar stool. Got a light? Here, keep it. No catch. More popcorn. More fingers swirling around in the nut bowl. Fancy a bite? You'll have to take off your kit. Mismatch. She sees stars, he sees porn. Back into the rabbit hole. Legs cross over, left on right. I've seen you somewhere before. Yes, I do come here often. The prowl may have won a pounce. They drink to that. Tonight could be the night. How many? I really don't keep score. Bring a friend and you can share the bacon. She leaves with dignity, just an ounce, wondering if maybe she should give tit for tat. So she was wondering if maybe she should lower her standards because, as you can tell, she was getting on a bit. Empty hatch. I wear my belly in my mouth. Every month, I push an egg off my tongue. It falls and bleeds the edges of me. I wear my belly in my mouth. It speaks of a named child it wants to hold. It practices storytelling. I wear my belly in my mouth. Every so often it hums, all fall down. It rocks itself dry. I wear my belly in my mouth. It cycles around the sharpening bend. It repeats to its end. I wear my belly in my mouth. Every oval throw is an unfurnished room. It knits pink and blue. I wear my belly in my mouth. It bears down the waiting time. It counts my eggs backwards. But just in the nick of time, she found the one that she could be perfectly strange with, and they dreamed about leaving this world where they could just be. Suitcase for the moon. I've packed a suitcase for the moon, a trunk. It's sitting next to the slightly open door. I wait for you in the morning sun to come pick us up. You just rang, said people are in your way, they make you late. While I wait, I think, why take a clock to the moon? Time won't tick for us anymore. I unpack the clock. The milk is delivered. Your monthly magazine is in the paste box. Politics, crime, and weather won't factor in our lives. Our connection to electronic newspapers comes out of the bag. The children end their day at school. It starts to rain. Will we need umbrellas? Will we really need clothes? I won't have to dress up anymore for society. The suitcase becomes lighter. You were here. You clutch the baggage handle and stumble backwards. You put energy into strength. Did I pack nothing for our migration? I only packed what you asked for, the voices of humans who we have loved. They never did leave. Instead, they made someone who didn't look anything like her. Gravity evader. Before you, my body was a vessel echoes crushed upon, until they studded themselves into a loop. With you, my body becomes shelter and creator of a life the heart put under its wing. Now, with you in a body of your own, mine misses you terribly when we are apart, until I come home at the end of the day and you jump there inside my arms, sure that gravity can't catch you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Erato. I will be reading a short excerpt from my Madwoman story. The tall towers of the power station soar over her in the semi-darkness. For some reason that she cannot determine, she feels in tune with the environment, no longer a misfit. She listens to the waves thrashing on the pointy rocks below, to the buzzing of the power station pumping electricity into the veins of the world, to the whispers of the night. There is some strange, cool harmony in the music of it all. They are alike, her and the dark sea. She inhales her salty perfume that carries with it stories of tales untold and forever to be held in her dark depths. Her gaze travels where the surf meets the shore, coming together as lover souls, merging into one another, becoming one for a brief moment, and then separating again, leaving behind the devastation of their abrupt and short lovemaking. She sits on the edge of the cliff, her legs dangling, as though she's sitting on a swing, like a little girl. My daughter loves the water. She takes long, bubbly baths, runs into the rain until soaking wet, and jumps into the sea with her shoes still on. I don't know what it is. If these were taken away from her, she would dry up and die like a fish in the net. That's why I don't get upset at her and let her do as she pleases. I tell her stories of mermaids, living into the depths of the vast oceans, falling in love in underwater fairy tales, riding seahorses in the cool, silent blueness, with pearls and sparkling seashells decorating their hair. When I'm sad, she puts her tiny index fingers on the corners of my mouth and pushes them high into my cheeks. When I'm sad, she tells me she wants to be like me when she grows up. She tells me that she wants to be able to write stories about mermaids. I don't necessarily believe her. I do not want her to be like me. That's my only wish. My daughter doesn't know of my friend, the Madwoman. I'm not going to let her anywhere near her, ever. This Madwoman friend of mine lives in the attic of my mind. Once in a while, during the long moments of insomnia, I meet up with her. The two of us sit comfortably in the attic and have long, meaningless chats about reason. That's her only pursuit in life, reason, that is. Some other times we just sit side by side in silence, smoking and listening to each other breathe, just to know we're alive. Once upon a time, there was reason. Concepts and notions were beautifully placed in particular boxes, lovely and shiny, gazing back at me with certainty and reassurance. And then I realized that clear-cut lines and shapes and predetermined pathways have become blurry and hazy and uncomfortably distorted. When one realizes that there are no limits anymore, no definite colors, no categories, the realization is unwanted at first. At first. A huge dusty storage is all that is left from my disturbed mind, loaded with memories and thoughts covered in cobwebs. I'm in there, all sweaty and breathing heavily, as though I have been running a marathon. Restless curls cover my face, my cheeks are flashing. I ran my hands frantically over the dusty objects, trying to fathom what was once clear and understandable. I'm nothing but a mad woman in an adding, heaving and hissing, tearing cobwebs, trying to figure things out. Once upon a time, before my daughter was born, things were much simpler. I would lay drunk on the kitchen floor and hurt myself in my peace and quiet, in the privacy and comfort of my very own personal space. I would lay there, freeing the sorrows of my soul, and watch them flee from the self-inflicted wounds on my body. But not anymore. Thank you.
I want to dedicate this reading to my husband and my daughter Eleni, and to reassure them that it's not an autobiographical story. I'm Maria Ioannou, and the story is called The Party. Ever seen crumbling buildings? They're rendering loose and dropping in pieces. Their insides clumsily revealing themselves as if they've been devoured. You're peeling too. Haven't you noticed? Take a look. Look. Pull your skin. Pull it. Let it tear itself and drop onto your expensive tiles, your granite countertops, and your crystal miniatures. Check out your insides. Broken. You've curdled like expired milk. Yet, here's your little girl in a shiny tutu with face painting, wearing a pointy hat and ribbons. Hooray, here's your little girl. Hooray, here's your little girl, gathering the peeled pieces of your skin, mixing them in her tiny palms, turning them into childish flags, coloring them, squeezing them, tasting them as if pieces of chocolate. Besides, today's her birthday, and in a short while she'll receive all sorts of gifts from Jumbo Store and wish cards from the kiosk. And you will cover yourself with a cheap dress from H&M. You'll wear a smile. It hurts pulling your lips to the right and to the left. I know. You'll welcome your guests. You'll serve them. You'll feed them. You'll sing really loud till your veins burst. Happy birthday to you, till your veins burst. Happy birthday to you. And then you'll turn your head behind to your bedroom, where it's still dark. You'll see me. You'll ask me to leave, to take my notebook and just leave. I won't. You'll threaten me. You'll try everything. You'll even spray me with aerosol. My coughing will disturb your guests. They'll start looking for you, poised between the lava cake and the well-done kebab, while the children with balloon heads will keep exploding onto each other. Your skin will continue to peel, this time on your bed sheets. I'll be gathering your pieces. I'll be sticking them on the wall, thus creating a white beige screen, turning my eye into a projector, showing you flooded cities, burned cars, people searching for their heads, missiles ready for launching, him looking for you, him calling your name, you drifting away, him asking you what went wrong, using megaphones and portable speakers. What did we do wrong? You still peeling, seeing your skin divided in piles, piles reminding you of dead water lilies, of tear-flooded napkins, you really wanting to give him an answer. A woman, this all must have an answer. It's not possible not to have an answer. You drowning, you burning, you unable to say a single word. You hear the doorbell. Ring, ring. You drag yourself to the door. Your guests feel ecstatic to see you again. They talk to you with their mouths full. The children scream. Your windows look like cream. The children scream. Your windows look like cream. You want to send this rhyme to hell. Ring, ring. Why on earth does it take so long for you to move from your room to the door? Is it the fault of your peeling skin? Does it make you lighter in weight? Is the wind carrying you away? Somebody close the window. Somebody close the window. Nobody can hear you. With their mouths pulled to the right and to the left, they continue to dance. Close the fucking window. A boy hears you. The boy closes the window. What's that boy called? What's he called? You seem to forget everyone's names. Who are all these people in your house? Crushing your handmade carpet, wiping their fingers on your walls, oozing chocolate and fat. Ring, 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 ring. You continue to peel, now in slow motion. You fear that by the moment you actually reach the door handle, you'll vanish. The handle resembles a neck. You turn it. You think you hear it scream. Now, right behind the door, you see him. You see his big eyes. You want to pluck them out. You don't know why. You want to tear at the flowers he's holding, to rip that teddy bear's insides. But you look at your little girl's face shine, and you shine too. The whole world is now shining. The whole wide world. Happy birthday to a little girl, he whispers in your ear. He kisses you on the cheek. If only you could cover the distance that divides cheek from mouth. If only you could walk that distance that divides cheek from mouth. Yet, by the time you reach his lips again, yours will have peeled.
Yeah. What's that? Should I cough for effect? Finding your way. Directions are only as good as their destination. Go back 30 years. Turn left at the senior prom you attended with your friend's brother who was bribed to take you. Accelerate, ignoring the speed bumps, and get the heck out of high school. Stop briefly at 8th grade to recall Gordon M., he of the freckles and innocent grin, indifferent to your yearning. Then get moving. Turn east, pausing long enough in 5th grade to note the effect of war on childhood. Then speed drive back to kindergarten, toddlerhood, a cake mix in a Jericho kitchen, your grandmother yelling about foreign brides, your mother weeping in the bedroom. Look for an image to anchor you. The dragonfly on the Jericho pool will do. Fix it in your mind as a talisman against fear. Then ask yourself, where are you going, and what do you need to know? Slippage. I'm forgetting my name and how it's spelled, that alphabet blurred by years of usage, letters tilting like the time-warped script in my mother's worn-out phone book, its cover encased in a layer of heat-warped plastic. I'm forgetting the person I used to be before I got lost in the dust-streaked pages of brittle phone books with dead-end numbers. I've forgotten how to dial phones that aren't rotary, that circular whir and click, humming the cadences of people now dead. I can retrieve the dead, their faces and stories, but I've misplaced their voices. I can't recall the addresses inscribed in my mother's cursive, page by page in the grimy volume I threw in the trash when she died. but I remember the spasm of regret that rippled through me as I opened my hand and released that store of names, noting how the body bears the current of memory as if it were a phone line. I recall my mother's knuckled despair, that legacy haunting me with the lure of forgetting, till I became so successful at amnesia, I could not recall the way back to myself. I think of all the people who wrote me letters of condolence after my mother's death, tissue-thin pages whispering from a distant land. By now, they won't remember me. If I call, they'll rifle through their aging memories as if through a card file, trying to place me. We'll stay on the line a long time, breathing heavily into the slippage of silence, unwilling to say goodbye. This next poem is called The Shoes. It's in memory of Faris Bouhafa. The shoes are scattered in disarray, as if kicked off tiredly at the end of the day, one overturned by the bed, another peering out beneath the bookshelf. Expensive leather, smooth to the touch, still radiates the aura of life, warmth of the feet that tapped impatiently under desks, took stairs 2 at a time, strode impetuous down vibrant sidewalks, that walked out the door that last morning, confident of return. Now they lie like shadowed footprints. Gravely, I lift them from the ground, settle them in their shoebox, tentatively close the lid, as if they might protest, leap from their resting place, stamp furiously out the door, reclaim the bustling avenues and all their riches. But they lie motionless in their shroud of tissue. I switch off the light, close the closet door, confront the silent room. Pants drooping across a chair, shirt flung across the exercise bike, hats stacked like dusty ghosts on the ledge. From outside the window comes a faint tapping, footsteps of the living as they go about their business.
Christakis Ktoris was an eccentric Cypriot junk collector and a book thief. And he also, in his free time, over the years, managed to amass a collection of self-portraits of himself that were, for the most part, unflattering but very intriguing. And when a friend of mine, Melis Pitas, told me about a book he was going to put out of the photographs, and I saw the photographs, I decided to approach him with the idea of writing a biographical text. To do that, we had to interview a bunch of his friends, and we did that over the period of about a month or two. The so-called extraterrestrials, Exogenitis Kypro of Cyprus, a mechanic, a millionaire, 2 fellow hoarders, and I forgot, there was one other one. Oh yeah, a prison teacher who all kind of orbited into and out of his life. And they all loved him dearly, and they talked about him. And then this book is a reconstruction of his life because not many people know who he was. He also wrote a biography in Greek, in Cypriot Greek, and it's called Izoimu Imigri, and it's also published by Melis Pitas. It's available if you... So I'm just going to read a selection of this kind of quasi-biography. Excuse me. If I can find it. Okay, fact. She found him trawling a garbage dump in Ios Domedios, not too far from the center of Nicosia in 2005. It would have been nice to place this encounter at night in the beam of a flashlight in the cold, but it was spring to the best of her memory. She met him in the afternoon. He was nervous to be found this way. This was his mountain of junk, and it took hours to search through for something he could use, which was anything he considered of value, which was anything he might sell to collectors or store in his bedroom for his personal use. He liked books. When he got nervous, he couldn't control his face. He had tics from the medication and from 3 stints in prison. His chin knocked to the side, he grimaced, his eyes rolled. She was still standing there because when you're a collector of junk, any dirty wet leaf might conceal an object of glamour beneath it. People threw out things by mistake. They watered the ground with gold that very few of us could see. She was wondering what he'd found there today and if she might make a trade or a purchase. He stuck a pacifier in his lips like a crying infant on self-therapy, and he showed her what he had. Fact, he once lived in an apartment. The apartment stank of Christakis' 5-pack-a-day habit and of his personal detritus, his hoarding sickness. There was a single cast iron pot on the stovetop that could fit your arm up to the elbow, and a thick blue dildo on the floor. Alicia. Inside the pot was a 2-day-old taro stew. It stank of that and of the old spring rain collected in plastic bowls on the floor. It was humid in there, and the ripe paint fell from the walls like a leper's skin. But he'd seen worse. He'd spent time in between incarcerations living out of a Fiat Mirafiori. In the summer heat, he'd left the windows down and passed the nights under a thin covering of parking tickets and court summonses, reading under an arc lamp. He'd spent some time living in a mechanic's garage in a delivery van, maybe a decade, where he opened his eyes one morning and thought, a quote from his book, "I woke up expecting to breathe God's mercy, but instead got a nose full of engine oil." Fact, they consider themselves to be the extraterrestrials of Cyprus. Wear tight pants, suck on a pacifier, put on a wig, put on a banana hat, a Coca-Cola helmet, and sit for a coffee on Nicosia's Makario Street, one of the stiffest drags in the city where, until the financial crisis of 2013, you could find locals drinking $7 frappes and $5,000 pants. Obviously, he wasn't from here. He'd been dropped here, beamed down, along with anyone else he found that he could trust. He was a misfit, and so bore no earthly parentage. This, sadly, made perfect biographical sense. Christakis Ktoris had been given up for adoption in 1954, the 7th child of parents who didn't want him. In 2010, he would be buried in the Shimitras family grave, but that is another story, another fact. Fact, in 1979, Christakis got 3 months for forging a deed to a house that belonged to his foster parents. One of those months he spent in the psychiatric ward. There were other adventures in between prison sentences and living in the backseats of cars and vans, a marriage left behind, a child abandoned, lovers he would take whimsical vendettas out against, mostly young men. People who saw the fool, the lunatic, and people who saw a loving, caring friend, a genius, an autodidact. He walked the streets, he stole and found and traded and sold old books, old documents, old movie posters, old maps, old photographs. You want to see a man content? See Christakis hovering over the dumpsters of the PIO office, PIO in Nicosia. Watch him pick up and stare at some document cast away, some minor scrap of the past come unmoored like a cat entranced by a candle flame. You would think he was driven by a perverse sympathy for scattered pieces, the way he looked at other people's garbage. He might have seen himself as one, as a collection of stories, of photographs, a history punctuated by 3 prison sentences for progressively more incomprehensible crimes. Last one. Fact, Christakis Ktoris was buried in the new cemetery in Yeri in the Shimitras family grave. The Ktorises, Christakis' foster family, have a grave in the old cemetery, which was no longer accepting cadavers when Christakis died in 2010. The Shimitrases, Christakis' biological parents, are buried in the new cemetery. His friend, the mechanic, arranged to have Christakis' body buried there with his blood relatives. In Cyprus, your family has a grave, not a plot. If your family has the misfortune to see 2 deaths in the space of 4 years, you may open the grave. They open the grave and take out the coffin and place the bones in a pillow and put that pillow back in the ground under the new coffin. Fact, Christakis Ktoris is now sleeping on top of his parents.
My body is light, craved, dazzling, an enigma. My body is sand flowing upwards through the hourglass, filling me, pushing me into lucid air, bathing me with transparence, gushing me into perfection, sculpting me free. I am becoming a goddess. I am rising. Distance. The distance between us is a small crab. I put it in my mouth, crush its ego with my teeth, crunch until they hurt, until it bleeds. Then my tongue moves into your mouth and nips its soft walls of flesh, while the music of pebbles grinding each other enters my ears. The islanders. They grew up watching the salt scattering flight of gulls, the horizon and the chaos of waves. By day, they waited for ships. Every night when the world fell asleep, they walked into the sea. It was like entering their past. Their feet disappeared first, then their legs, their necks and lips. They liked to think that somewhere in the pitch black they would find their beginning, that they would finally be comforted. Separation. The time came when they longed to return. My father walked circles in the living room. My mother packed and unpacked her hands. We will leave when the rain stops, they said. The rain in this country is so unkind. The time came when they could no longer return. My father sat in his remote corner of silence. My mother leant into lamplight and threaded sighs. We will leave when the rain stops, she said, hummed intricate tunes, sowed invisible tears. And this is the short story, part of a short story called Truth. Their arguments are always audible because she raises her voice and he mutes his, and there is a deafening sound in both my ears when she says things like, "I've had enough," or "I don't recognize you anymore," or "Go to hell." Their kitchen window is always open, even in winter. Right at the beginning, when I first moved in, I thought they might be actors rehearsing a play together at the kitchen table, her voice so clear and deliberate and his pauses so well timed. I listened and listened for clues, but there was always silence after she banged the door. Any minute now, a champagne bottle will pop, a plate will get smashed, a mirror will break, a tantrum will be thrown, a baby will cry, a canary will sing. Any minute now. But nothing ever happened, and I fell asleep, my ear glued to the pillow. Ch-ch-ch, tss-tss-tss. Once, in a dream, her boyfriend hugged me so tight on the stairs I could hardly breathe. I was on my way down to work and running late, as usual. It was raining outside, and he stopped me on the stairs, held me tight, and asked desperately, "Do you hear our arguments? Do you know that I hate her?" I looked at my watch, and I looked at his dark shoulder-length hair, and tried to speak, but no sound came out of my mouth. "I have nowhere to go," he said, "except hell." And I kissed him on the mouth and woke up soaked in rain, flooded in sunlight. There's my wall, there's their window, there's them, And there's that bitch, Truth, who sniggers at me and makes that sound tss, 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 ch, ch, ch. Because, she says, you know what that means, right? You know all about love, don't you? Go and knock on their door. Go and tell them. Thank you.
I'm Rachel Pettis. I live in Paphos and I'm married to a Cypriot, so I am not Cypriot, but I do been here for 20 years, so I feel like I have some insight into some things. This first poem is called Attachment, and it's quite an early one. Leaves by stems to twigs, by spurs to branches, trunks by roots to earth. Sons and daughters by milk strings that stretch from nipple to sleep-slack lips, by apron strings wound twice and tied in double bows, dusted with flour, butter smeared. Held by gravity to our spinning sphere, we reel through the heavens, through blackness lit by 10,000 fireflies, disparate, linked. Star strings, spirals, whirls, clouds, gas and rock and vapor, iron and diamond whirl together in crazed choreography, dancing to an unheard melody, a clash of cymbals, a syncopated, unending rhythm. Try talking to the universe to a three-legged cat that purrs for food and cries for love. He weaves his own pattern in the tall, dry stems of once green grasses before raising topaz eyes and bounding for the table where he settles, curls, and sleeps in a pool of sunlight. Before I lived in Cyprus, I spent a lot of time in Ireland. And when I finally left, I knew it was the last time that I was going to be leaving. And I wrote this poem a few years ago from notes that I kept at the time. It's called Leaving Stripe. Summer flees, and I will follow, loosed from the square white cottage at the end of the Boreen to fly east, to follow tangled pathways that lead to autumn dawns, among vineyards and the silver grey of olives. Sullivan, the cat, watches as I fill a bottle with a last taste of the West. The water, clear and flinty, sings of Ireland. My senses will carry Connemara for a few days more, even after the particular clarity of Western light has faded far behind. Sullivan, the cat, folds his paws beneath his chest. He will stay hunting mice between Stripe Cottage and the sea, hearing the rough scream of gulls as they slide canted into the coming gales. He will stay as the wind whips the clouds toward winter and jangles the bells in the hawthorn tree. The rocks above the strand hold the last of summer's warmth in their rough lichen underfoot kiss. My toes store memories, rack, sand lodged between kelp streamers, bubbles and flotsam, net floats, a solitary shoe, lonely soul. Goodbye, Sullivan. Goodbye, grasses and bracken, daisies and roses and clover. Goodbye, grey sky and slaty sea. Goodbye, weed-strewn granite that hums and hisses with each long wave's caress. The last poem I'll read is I'm calling it at the moment the Cyprus problem, but I see more and more that the problem is not with individuals, so it's a working title. Anyway, when asked how we can share this land, I answer only that we must. The fig and cypress trees, the twisted olives, miss the echoes of your souls, your voices. My children's songs are incomplete without your counterpoint. Their dances cry for partners. We can sketch each other's pain in the table's empty place, the untouched chair, the clothes still hanging, the face in the wedding photo that has not aged with yours, with ours. Your torment is the other side of ours, on a coin forever spinning, spanning war and politics, walls and promises. We can sing each other's pain in a litany of blame and accusation, but will that take us home? Shards of fractured mirrors show our incompleteness, and dawn brings the Hodges call, birdsong and bells, through a Sunday autumn morning damp with jasmine, over wet streets carpeted with the leather skins of last month's pomegranates, to my Nicosia window. On the streets of one, the other, I feel dislocated unity and sameness. The same smells on each side the line, the same melody in a different tongue. Shared history that still can't overcome the last 60 years, the present, because despite the open checkpoints, power minds stay closed. Teachers who refuse the narrative of them and us are transferred far from influence. And in the competition, who suffered most? No one comes up winner. Thank you.
I was born in Cyprus, left as a child, came back in my early 40s, but English is my literary language, although I'm a Cypriot. I'll begin with a short one. I wrote in Liguria on the coast just outside Genoa, where I went for a writer's residency. Expecting nightingales. At the smallest hour, I awake and wait in expectation the nightingale will sing. The roar of the sea, absorbing whistles of the passing trains, hoodwinks me into slumber, so I do not even sense the roosters crowing. The pink light eludes me, stealing silently through slats to soften Kathy's sleep, and I hear a warm smell of fresh focaccia in Raffaella's buzzing at the door. And this one was written, I was asked to write a poem with the theme, the poem that we are. And for a French-Canadian bilingual magazine. So it's called If It Were Given. If it were given, I would speak the words in everyone's mind, utter them with the rhythmic noise that shakes open the shutters, ushering in the breeze to stroke you with its fingertips, softer than wild rose petals. Or I would invoke the wind that rattles and unhinges window panes to waft you away in full sail, if only for a moment, to be great among the great, small among the small, to be the poem that you are. One of my favorite poetic personas is the dragoman, the dragomanos, or terjuman, because I have a transcultural identity, but this is also about inside-outside relationships, public, private, self, other, and so forth. It's a long poem, but I'll only read the first short introductory part of it. The long poem is called Rhapsody on a Dragoman. This is part one, and it's called Invisible in Daylight. I am a dragoman, courtesan of the word. I pluck my eyes to hear with skill and improvisation worlds of hard edges, a treacherous and loyal exponent of obsession. Not all men know my speech. In the night I go under in company of dervishes and learn why cyclamen sprout in pavement cracks and mutter promises amidst the dust. Of the beautiful and the unseen, I ask meaning for forgive, forgo, foreplay, an island warbler still with no quarrel, or a swallow in the line of flight, meandering with finality, knowing that the road is lost in floating debris of fortuitous choices, precipitous moves. With a pulsive sagacity, I swirl and sail away, vexed in my state of grace. Daytime, dragoman, nighttime, dervish. This is one to a thin place on the island, Garpasia. I'm from Trigomo. I was born in Trigomo, so I have very strong childhood memories of that part of the island. So the gravity always pulls me in that direction, either in my imagination or in the last 10 or 12 years when I've been able to cross, I keep being pulled there. So this is a journey to Garpasia. Do you remember when the sun moved into Virgo and we were pulled against gravity to a thin place, careful not to tread the rhizomes of the calamint by the rock, where the holy friend found his sacred spot, and where there is too much sky, a sea swallows the sun, and in the purple hue, turtle midwives come from far away to bring the science of nature to the nature of departure, protected as the wall of shell in liquid turquoise embraces a flesh of fragile green. And when night fell with a torrent of rain and the lightning struck the deafy drum while the candle flame danced the Layla limb, and in response our bodies swayed as the island's hull was turning till day cleaned the fields fresh for the wild and wide-eyed donkeys, bashful as they sing to us their kin. Olmas, na me bethenis bolemas. And with gravity we turn to ask, is this the homeward way? Toward a fertile Messauria lying fallow, the air so thick you cut it with a knife, and houses waste like time itself for spaceships that have lost the ground, not sure if in this place the time is long or short. This plain was once the old sea between two islands, was once my dwelling till the horizon lifted to let us through. So I still wonder how to write thick poetry, how to chant for a thin place. And finally, a very short one, when written to my daughter when she was going to fly away and leave home. And it's also inspired by my favorite living poet writing in English, Derek Walcott. Augustan days. Days as august and as large as the sea, and nights as wide as the rooftops. Here I lie. No use for the shirt on my back, nor the walls of my house spread before a relentless sky that will brood and puff up, a tease or a promise of rain, the lion raised to the stars, at days with a spray of fierce light, as Perseus climbs high or hangs low in tears. For the days we will lose, for the days sunburnt red with moon. And the month passes by, the cat slips away, and the marigolds fade, leaving only a touch like tender dust, and a daughter ready to fly. And with Derek I sing, days I have held, days I have lost, days that outgrow like daughters, my harboring arms.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Paul Stewart. I'll zip through a few of my poems, maybe one, maybe two from my collection, and then a couple of new ones. No explanation apart from this one, which is concerning the renovation of the house I now live in. This is called Restoration. The builders, T.C. and Georgian mainly, had only ripped down and levelled newer but ruined outbuildings and dismantled the roof of beams Psatha and tiles, when a freak-made deluge discanded a half-metre thick mud brick wall. I thought I would read this. This is Dun Laoghaire, the port south of Dublin. At Dun Laoghaire I did not feel the spray flay my skin, nor see, nor thought I saw, Welsh hills purpling into sea haze, bruising clouds, and someone else's nostalgia. Any revelation was scuppered by the maze of bus routes, tram lines, and the now quick, slow and easy, that never gave up the simple connections that would see me strike a faux romantic pose, sea-washed, yet stoic, as the darknesses surged upward. Ports, docks, and piers. I've done enough of such broken bridges, enough peering off, thinking I'm thinking, but in truth, blank, before the offing strewn with wrack and junk. Back to Nicosia. This is called Man at Kiosk. You will suffer this dislocation unwillingly, unwittingly. The spot at the kiosk that is yours each morning with a fag on, a cheap beer on, your feet, one skewed since birth, dangling as you sit on top of a gas canister cupboard. Kiosk is not the word. An open pavilion, palatial, intricate blue tiles in geometric perfection on each wall and in each welcoming niche. Nor newsagents either. The standard papers piled, rows of all tastes magazines, the assured and mistrustful owner glowering over the chocolates. But such are the options. It is early. Cars on the school and work run pass as time is measured by the ash as it falls beneath your feet, by the beer growing warmer and flatter as the day flattens into heat. A plastic glass nods towards a modicum of decorum. You nod too to the park across the road, nominated a gift to the people by some one-time First Lady. The palace of the president is in there somewhere, obscured by the trees and out of earshot of your mumbling rants, your gasping shouts, which are ignored too by those who can hear, striding past, averting the eyes, reaching for a child's hand to steer them away. No good in looking, in dwelling on such things, such misfortune, such a misfortunate, if that is the phrase, that the correct term. Needless to say, you are old, your skin cracked, deeply grooved and darkened in this harsh sun. I've seen the like before, but then bog-tanned, teeth bared, the neck noosed, the eyes sightless, housed in the National Museum of Ireland. And just the two quick ones to end up. This is called Matin's Mantis. Past shriving, past prayer, the mantis spread prostrate on the patio with ants attending. That certain hesitancy, that quivering poise, stilled, save for a shiver as the ants work from the inside out. And finally, the rain brings down oranges, arranges them on the dank road to be flattened, split, and merged with the fur and guts of a cat long dead. Thank you.
I tried to write a nature poem. I walked the man-filled streets today to the beat of a funeral hymn, to hear the jovial truck drivers and the ice cream car go by. I yearned for the place they go to when they stock up on happiness. Outside Pathetic Fallacy Bar and Grill, I stopped Wordsworth for a light, who offered instead his whores of language, brooding mountains, stolen boat, knurled beggars, raveling cups. I picked him up by the tail, spun him around my head. No nature poem would do. I saw the damned leaves fall. Look, man, when I was locked inside, I knew the winds whistling, the sheets shivering, the world coveting, the edge of the web. When I remove my hair dye is never an embarrassment. There are only 5 and another 5. I cannot calculate the exact number of neural thoughts it takes me to think this, but they leave me one by one as I scrub off the blue-black, and this becomes a parable for something we might later discuss. But what about this? You may have suspected Mr. Rat ate too much and so died inside that kitchen cupboard, which no one ever opens unless, yes, screwdriver for bolt or hammer for picture. But if you were to wake to some swinging stench in your heart, on your ceiling, then surely you would become a poet and or a cynic. We're taught and deceived to deify the dead, equate purity with the immortal being. But how do we still praise potentiality so? Too many small thoughts, not enough fingers to count them on, so I have given up poetry. No, it's your inherent property. We'll argue about necessary and sufficient, the inherent and accidental, whether or not all this applies to existence. We're good at that sort of thing. Philosophical knowledge carried us this far, but I have cellulite and 3 wrinkles to follow you through long elitist years of silent, bookworm research on bourgeois, book-smelly, good text. Not enough. You may agree with this in part. The gods you are defending, others defended before, and you don't want to marry me. And the last one is Carmine Lullabies. A farewell adds something to this world. It frees up a room in your heart of 4 rooms. 3 for them, 1 for you, 1 in which you store small nothings. A farewell adds something. A celebration dressed in carmine lullabies. A farewell adds something to this world. It sprinkles on us sawdust. In the fullness of time, we will seek nothing magical. We must learn that home is where the front door is. Every creak is true. Every bent, planned. Every step moves selves closer. We must learn to carve out the past and leave imprints as we hollow. There lights a scar show for whoever enters. Faint as murmur, their happiness can grow rhino strong. Telemarketer persistent. Thank you.